What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
Does your book, film, resource, product, or business change people's lives for the better? Hi, I'm Jackie Lappin, founder of Conscious Media Relations, a unique boutique PR firm that helps you connect with your mind, body, spirit, and conscious lifestyle audience in a big way. We reach 3,500 specialty media and all the key mainstream outlets in the United States. I invite you to explore our radio media tour that connects to 2,600 personal growth radio shows. There is just nothing else like it. Come check out our website and read our rave reviews.
The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Dawn Johnston, who is an internationally renowned author, sought-after spiritual counselor, and gifted psychic intuitive. Her gifts have allowed her to assist thousands of people in their healing process. Sunny's message of self-love and acceptance has drawn thousands of people from all over the world to her workshops, events, and private sessions. Over the last 15 years, Sunny has performed thousands of readings, assisted on missing persons cases with Find Me, and even volunteered her services to the Parents of Murdered Children organization. Sunny joins me today to discuss her latest book, Invoking the Archangels, a 9-step process to heal your body, mind, and soul. Dawn Johnston, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's lovely to have you on. It really is, and I've obviously been researching you, and it's a very interesting career and path that you're on. You, like with every guest, I prefer to start at the beginning just to give us a bit of background. Now, I believe it was when you were 13. I think there was a ghost in the house, wasn't there? There was a ghost, and there was also this experience that you had, this awakening experience in a sense. Can you just share those two events with us?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, they kind of happened back to back. So the first experience, I was 13 and I woke up in the middle of the night. I rolled over and I saw this beautiful, colorful winged being above my bed. And I looked at it and I thought, that's different. But I felt this sense of peace and calm and just like, so I literally just rolled over and went back to sleep. And then the next morning I woke up and I thought, okay, that wasn't normal, Sonny. What was that? And I went downstairs and I told my mom about it. And she said, well, Sonny, that was your guardian angel. So that started the journey. And then shortly after that, within a couple of months, I also saw a ghost that lived on the stairs of our house inside. And I just thought I was seeing things. But my little brother, who was 8 years younger than me, saw the same thing. So those two things at the same time started this awakening of there's this whole other world that we don't know about or that we're not paying attention to. And I wanted to experience more of that peace and calm. And then I also had this kind of intrigue with, what is this? What is this all about?
Absolutely, and with your mother as well. She had a lot of friends in the metaphysical. I believe astrologers, psychics, all sorts of people that were of interest. Did this? I guess this shaped your upbringing to have a sort of spiritual upbringing in a sense.
Yeah, initially it didn't, and I was raised in Salt Lake City, Utah, which here in the States is a very religious environment, and very, very religious. And so it was kind of secret, it was kind of underground and hidden, and nobody really talked about it. So in my home, it was certainly of interest and safe. And my mom would have friends come over that were astrologists, numerologists, psychics, and it was okay. But it was going outside of my home and talking about it to anyone where it was not.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, that's different now.
Right. It's different now. We're talking about it.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't so easy. But there was. Mum was always there, and even when you had that experience, she allowed you to recognize what potentially this was. So okay. Now, as you grew up and your teenage years started kicking in as well, what was developing in a sense? Was there anything developing after that experience?
Certainly, yeah. Definitely, I started having more and more experiences with the angels. They started showing up in different moments, different times in my life, kind of creating an awareness for me that they were there. And then at the same time that was happening, I was having my own resistance to accepting them and to because I wanted to be normal, and everyone else didn't have those experiences. And actually, I lost friends because I started talking about it. So I decided, I don't want to do this anymore, and I kind of pushed it away. And then they'd come back in, and I push it away, and I did that dance for 15 years. Unfortunately, I spent a lot of my life playing that game.
Yes, and well, it's quite normal, I think, in one sense to play that game, the back and forth game, and not accepting it. But you as a person at that time, how would you judge yourself? I mean, without trying to be too hard. I mean, do you think what was you? How was you quite judgmental? Would you say?
Absolutely, I was. Being brought up in a very religious society, I created within myself a lot of judgment of all of them because I was different than they were. And I always felt the pressure to try to be like everybody, including all my family, everyone. And yet I wasn't. And so instead of feeling the pain myself, I instead judged them. And of course, we know if we're judging outward, it's coming back in. So absolutely, I had a lot of criticism. And I think now and even about 15 years ago, I could look back and go, okay, you know what? The angels were really helping me to get kind of a thick skin for the work that I was going to do and be okay with the fact that I was different and be okay that I didn't fit in. But at the time, as a teenager, oh man, that did not work for me well.
No, and I suppose, there was a lot of healing the past and forgiveness that had to take place as your abilities increased, and as time as well, age as well.
Yeah, it definitely was. I feel like there was a lot of time. It wasn't wasted because it was purposeful and valuable, but I certainly feel like there was time that I could have been embracing those gifts and learning on an even deeper level that I wasn't capable of at that time because I was scared. I wasn't scared of spirit. I wasn't scared of the experience. I was scared of being different. And back then, gosh, that was the early 80s. We didn't have radio shows like this. We didn't have anything on television. There was no even library books. You couldn't find anything. So I think it was just so far out there at that time that I didn't want to be a part of it because I just wanted to be normal. And then I found out, you know what? I'm not normal. So it's not going to happen.
Well, not normal on the sense of maybe people who don't understand.
Exactly.
But for those who,
yes,
in that, but for people who understand that they may be more than their body, and that consciousness may not reside in the body, and that consciousness, it came before matter. It's not matter then consciousness. That maybe those type of people would understand you. When we talk about that, it was more, it was difficult back in the 80s. It was a bit more restricted in the sense of being able to share and be able to find groups, or there was no internet where you can just, jump on and, connect with people. I think, even though we've got all these wonderful things now that bring us all together, I think it's still difficult for those who are having an experience like what potentially you had, or having some sort of, they've got some sort of psychic gift. Maybe it's, intuitive or channeling or whatever it may be. I think it's still difficult for people going through that process. They still, you're having to fight it sometimes to say, well, is this really a truth, or where is this coming from? Or, oh yes, it is a truth. I'll go with it today, but then tomorrow, oh damn, I feel so different. Maybe, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Do I just show up?
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest reason why I created a healing center. So I have a healing center here in Arizona, and that was the reason, is because it was so important for me to have a place where people could come together of like minds and feel safe, where we could talk about those kinds of things and we could find common ground, and they could share their vulnerabilities or their insecurities and not be, threatened or the like. And so, yes, the internet has created one aspect of safety, but I think to really be in a physical space with other people that can see you and have walked that journey is of incredible value. And so I absolutely agree with you.
Well, I think it's a beautiful thing that you've done to set up this healing center, and I believe it was set up in 2003, the Sunny Foundation Sunlight Alliance.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called, yeah. Wonderful. And that's still going strong now?
Still going strong, yep. It's grown and grown and grown, and we've moved a couple of times to be able to hold the all of the people that show up. So it's been, and I've certainly expanded my reach online, but, I don't think there's anything compared to the person-to-person, heart-to-heart, soul-to-soul contact.
Absolutely. And that's beautiful what you've done there. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. And that's encouragement for other people to do the same thing as well. It really is. Now, you had your son, your first son, I think it was, or your only son?
My first. Mm-hmm.
You first at an early age, didn't you?
I sure did.
Yeah.
And
now you would call him now your greatest teacher, which
I sure would. He's still teaching me. Yesterday he taught me.
Absolutely right. Now, back then, when this was all happening, just tell us where you were when you know, in your development, when you first had him, and you know, how developed were you psychically? What was going on at home?
I was very ignorant. I had many experiences. I had pushed them away. At the time, I really was in, I would just say, a state of depression. I didn't feel connected, and I didn't feel like I was being supported, certainly not in the way that I wanted to be. So in that energy, I created an unhealthy relationship, an unhealthy pregnancy, an unhealthy birth. And I think that it was really a traction of the vibration that I was in. So I was living with an alcoholic. I was on food stamps and welfare, and he didn't work. And I just, I allowed myself to not, I didn't take care of myself well. And when I discovered that I was pregnant, I had a very, very high risk pregnancy. I developed toxemia, which turned into preeclampsia, which turned into eclampsia. So, that's basically, you could have a stroke at any time, you and or the baby could die. And I was on bed rest for 6 months. And what I discovered during that time, he was teaching me while I was pregnant even, was that I had so much kind of lack and limitation and fear and anger built up in my body that it literally was toxic, and it created a toxic environment physically, but also energetically for him.
Incredible. And when you had that aha moment, what did that then do for you, in a sense? What did you do with that?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have the aha moment until after all that was over. I'm kind of a slow learner. So the aha moment actually came, I gave birth to him. I had an emergency C-section because I had a stroke. And so they took the baby, and shortly after they took him, they discovered that I was actually very, very sick. And for the next 3 weeks, I had 106.3 degree temperature that they couldn't find the cause of. And the doctors came into my hospital room one day, and they said, it was the day before Mother's Day. And they said, we don't think you're going to make it through the night, and we need you to sign your rights away. Because I was single. I hadn't married his father. We need you to sign your rights away because we don't think you're going to live. And that was a moment where I realized, oh man, I'm sick. Like, I need help. And I was a kid. I was a teenager. So I kind of thought, well, when you're sick, you go to the hospital and they help you. I was naive, and they weren't helping me. They were telling me, yeah, you're not going to make it. And so I reached out, even though I hadn't been connected. I reached out to the angels and asked for help and support and guidance and love. And I was guided. I really had a presence of Archangel Raphael above me, around me, within me. And for 12 hours, I just literally visualized breathing in this green healing energy through my body. And for the first time in 3 weeks, my temperature broke, and the next day, which was Mother's Day morning. And the doctors came in and said, they had taken me off the medication. They didn't know what else to do for me. And they, called it a miracle. And I knew that was my willingness to open up and allow the healing to come through. And it was a long process, and it took months for me to get healthy again. But of course, obviously, I'm still here. So, but that was my kind of insight. Like, okay, Sonny, they're here, and pay attention and receive. And I still didn't even get it then. I did for a little while, and then I got back into life again.
That is an amazing story. It really is. Yeah, I know you got back into life, but you can't. That stayed with you, and that was part of the propulsion, I suppose, to push you to do what you're doing now. And it was, it's not an A to B situation sometimes, is it? It takes time for us to get the full message.
Yeah, I don't have many A to B situations. I'd like to know what that's like once in a while. Straight, right? No, that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think too that it's given that experience I've been able to share throughout my life with my students, my clients, shows like this, where it gives people that hope, that connection, that understanding, and that willingness. So, I think that it ultimately was exactly the way that it needed to be. It just was scary along the way.
Yeah, that's so true. When now you can look back and see the bigger picture. If going back to the time when it was all happening, you wouldn't have looked at it like this. Of course, you wouldn't have done. But if anyone's going through the same stuff or something where it's a shift that they're going through and there's so much changes and life's not what they want it to be sometimes, or there's lots of unbalance, just know that whatever you're going through, there's a bigger purpose, but we just can't see it because we've got to go through it first of all, haven't we, sometimes?
Absolutely. And I think that those things give us the opportunity to really learn and then have something to honestly be able to share from that helps so many other people. And I think we don't have to wait till we're dying to do it. That was what I did. And I don't recommend that. But I do think that sometimes that's what happens is we have to be on the ground at the bottom and then go, okay, I need to do something different.
Yes, and sometimes there's no other way to wake you up but to go through these severe times sometimes. I mean, it doesn't have to be that difficult, it doesn't have to be that painful, but you are an example of that truth that you don't need to go that far to get the message. But sometimes, there's never there's no road is the same, and everyone's on a different path, and there's nothing to say anything's wrong. It's just what is. And I keep getting told, you're where you need to be. You're where you need to be. We're all where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree, and I think hindsight is always wonderful. It's always great to look back and go, "Oh yeah, I could have done that completely different," but that defeats the purpose of the value in the experience, also.
Yes, absolutely true, and I do think it's true as well that as we awaken and we go through we different information comes down to our path that resonates with us. One of that resonation for me is that we can live the life that we want. We can have the things we want. It's just choosing what it is you'd love to do. What is your purpose? Trying to get in contact with that, and just going with what going with your feelings as well is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where you're kind of follow your bliss. What brings
bliss,
joy,
yeah.
what brings you happiness, what gets you excited. A lot of times I wake up and I think, I get paid to do this work, like I love being able to talk with people and help them connect and help them understand and teach large audiences and share that information. And that's a blessing. And I didn't plan it. I never planned to be doing this work, but it just kind of happened naturally out of a natural energy within me.
I know, it's so strange, isn't it? You didn't plan any of this. You didn't see your life going down this road, especially to be writing these books as well. And I suppose you could say the same for giving the readings.
Oh, for sure.
But no.
Yeah,
I
never planned to write. I actually, the first time that I wrote my first book, Invoking the Archangels, when I wrote that book, I said, I am never writing another book again. And my publisher said, oh, don't you worry, there'll be another. And I said, oh, you don't understand. That was not fun for me. And now I've got, 15 books down the road. I'm going, okay, it's only been 5 years. What's going on, Sonny? So I think sometimes it's good that we don't know, because had I known, I think I probably would have had more resistance to it,
And would you, absolutely, yeah. And would you say that these books are through you or of you?
I would say that most of them come to me and through me. So
right.
I don't feel like I channel all of it, but I certainly feel like as it comes to me, it takes a little bit of me with it, and it's a blend. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think either way, channeling it or doing it the way you do it is just as difficult, to be honest with you, and just as much trust in some respects. So let's just go back to 2000, 15 years ago, when you sort of started working as a full-time psychic medium. What is that process like for you? What was it back then as well? Is it a voice? Is it just a knowing? Is it a download? How does it work for you? How did it start for you as well? That's why I kind of want to go back there.
those experiences were always happening with my friends, with my family members. I would just things would just pop in sometimes, or I'd have a feeling about something, or I would just know something, or sometimes I would hear a mess. So the way it comes to me is different in every single experience with every single person at any given time. So sometimes I feel it, sometimes I hear it, sometimes I just know things, sometimes it just is kind of impressioned into me. So I think that the reason that happens that way for me is because I get bored easy. And so I think Spirit knew, okay, if we just keep giving it to her the same way, she's going to get really bored with this. So I'm the more present I am, and it calls me into absolutely needing to be present so that I can tune into seeing, feeling, hearing, knowing. And so all of that had been happening at different times throughout my life, but I had always just kind of pushed against it or cast it off. So when I started doing it professionally, I was very much into just doing readings. And I liked doing the angels. I liked connecting with the angels. The angels are, they're light and it's nice energy and it's just love and it feels good. And so that's where I started. And then I did an event in, I think it was 2003, where somebody came to me and they wanted a mediumship, or they sat down. They didn't want a mediumship reading, but they sat down to have a reading. And it was a man whose deceased son, 4 years old, stood right next to him. And as I was sitting there to do the reading, I was telling the kid, I don't talk to dead people. I don't want to talk to you. And the guy, I was trying to do the reading and the kid kept talking to me. I'm like, no, I don't want to do dead people, because to me, I always associated mediumship with sadness. And so I was really in denial. I did not want to do mediumship ever. And this kid was just so cute and he was so strong and he had such a strong energy. And so finally I just kind of broke down and shared with his dad what the messages were. And he had been killed years earlier, and his dad felt like it was his fault and that his mother didn't like him. He killed him because he looked like his dad. His mother did. And so she didn't want him around as a reminder. And so I realized in that experience, the healing that occurred for that man in those 30 minutes. And the selfish part of me, disintegrated for that moment and was like, Sonny, how can you not share something like this that can bring peace to somebody who's been traumatized for 10 years? And then after I did the reading, I was so upset that this little boy had been murdered and all of these things. And then the selfish part came back and said, but I don't want to feel this. So I had that push and pull. And then finally one day I just got over myself. Honestly, Kevin, I just was like, you know what? You can't not do this. What right do you have to not share this gift with the people who need to hear it? And so you're a little bit uncomfortable, Sonny. Get over yourself. And I had to have that talk many times. But ultimately, that's what led to doing the mediumship as well.
What have you ever been, or are you still ever uncomfortable with where is this truth? Is this truth? Is this truth? Where is it? Do you am I going to get it right? Am I going to give the right information across? Is the connection always is it going to be a struggle to bring it through?
I don't think that I get in that place, because I really believe that what needs to come through will. And so there are times when nothing comes through. And I'm one of the psychics that will always say, we're not 100% right. And sometimes it doesn't come through. But I always trust that if it isn't, there's a reason why it isn't. And I don't always know what that is. And sometimes I do know what that is. But I think that I've had enough experience through life and been put in enough situations that I really do trust that if something's coming, it's coming for a reason. And if it's not, it is as well. So I don't necessarily question that. Do I feel like, I always want to be of service to the person in front of me and I always want to get them as much as I can? Absolutely. But I also recognize that sometimes it needs to be baby steps for them. Sometimes they can't have all of it, even though I want to, here, let's just throw it all at you. Sometimes they're not ready for it. And who am I to judge or try to control that situation.
Yes, absolutely. Very interesting. Very interesting what you've just said there. Really, really is. In the sense as well that, if it's not coming through, there's a reason for it, and that's probably very true as well. And what is what is? Come on, I don't know if I. Well, yeah, I can ask this, I suppose. But compared to bringing the angels through with a psychic reading, is it two very different levels?
Yes, absolutely. The angelic realm is a lighter energy. Vibrationally, as physical beings, our vibration is low because we have bodies. When we drop our body, we raise up to the next vibration where our loved ones that have passed are. And then when we choose to be guides, teachers, and we raise our vibration to the next level, and then we have our angels and our archangels. And so they're different vibrational levels. So the angelic realm, that's why I didn't want to do mediumship, because that was so nice and light and just, it just felt good. And then when I started getting into the denser energies, guides, then loved ones, there was more density there, and it didn't always feel good to me. For me, one of the things that I was so challenged with in doing mediumship is a lot of times I feel the way people died in my body. So, like, for example, last week I was doing a reading and a young man was shot in the head, and I could feel the shot in the head, and actually I felt it for 2 days. And so some of the time, and so some of the time, that was my challenge, and my fear was I don't want to feel all of that. But I've also been through enough, had enough experience to know that the majority of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, once I share what I feel, it's released from my body. That's just the way spirit works with me. But there are some times, like the one that was last week, where if I haven't slept enough, my energy level's a little bit lower, then I kind of carry it a little bit longer. And then it's my responsibility, my work, to release it.
Right. Okay. So that's good to share that, because anyone else going through the same thing, may recognize signs in what you're saying and may realize that actually, I've been through that, and that resonates a lot. That does with what she's saying.
And it happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of people, and a lot of the time, I think that's what kind of talks us out of doing some of this work sometimes.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that absolutely, because sometimes you come across these books and you've already gone through the process, yet you're reading the book and it's telling you what you've already been through, and had you not been through it, then it wouldn't have resonated so much. But because you've been through it, it's what people say sometimes. It's like, well, I haven't gone out there to look for it, but there it is in black and white. Or someone like yourself that's gone through that, would understand. With the archangels, with the angels, are they trying to bring through, would you say, teaching information?
I think teaching information. I think a lot of times there's an energy of, what I found anyway, is an energy of unconditional love always. And through that unconditional love, they're teaching us oftentimes to love ourselves, to allow ourselves to receive, to have forgiveness. There's a variety of different vibrations, but do I think that ultimately they are there to help us learn and expand and grow in our heart space? Absolutely.
So you would say, well, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, right? But okay, would you say that there's other books to come through with more information than what's currently even here right now that you've brought through?
Yes. Absolutely. I think as we expand and get to a different level vibrationally, then we can hear more. And then we can open up to even more. And then we expand a little bit more, and our container can hold more. So that's why I think some people, if they read, I don't know what books are popular in England, but like if they read the Seth series, from the 70s, if they read that at the very beginning of their journey, it might freak them out. They might not be ready. But if they've had some baby steps, maybe they read Eckhart Tolle, and then they read James Van Praagh, or then they read one of my books. So baby steps in. Then when they read the Seth books, they go, okay, I can wrap my head around that, so to speak.
Yeah, the Seth material is great material. It's very evolved.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not easy stuff sometimes.
Yeah, it's not usually the first book to read.
Yeah, but it's great material. I think one person you missed out there was you.
Well,
They could read read your stuff, right?
yeah.
And you are reaching that right audience that needs your material, just as the Seth material reaches the right audience that it needs to reach.
Yes.
I think I see this happening more and more from the people that I interview. It just the right people at the right time with just what they need to hear for whatever it is they're going through.
Absolutely.
So that's incredible, and that list and that readership list will always expand, which is incredible as well. There's lots of psychic mediums out there, yet a lot of them are not reaching up to levels that you are and bringing through this information. Yet they have this gift. So why do you think that is?
I think we all serve different purposes in our work, and I think there's some psychic mediums, and their focus is more on evidential mediumship, where really what their purpose in doing the work that they do is to prove that life exists outside of this physical experience, and I think that has value. Then there's, I think, some psychics that want to help people to tell them what's going to happen in their future. I think there's some of us as psychic mediums that are here more as like a counselor and a guide and a teacher to help people understand the power that they have within themselves. And, for me and my work, it's much more about helping people learn and grow and expand and come to a sense of love and peace within themselves. So in the mediumship aspect of that might be closure. That might be answering some questions to help them find that sense of peace. And then in the psychic aspect of it, a lot of times it's helping them see what they're creating based on where they are right now. So what the journey is going to look like in the vibration that they are right now versus what it could look like if they shift their attention a little bit. So I'm more of someone that my intention is to empower people and not create dependency. I'm not interested in people wanting to come and see me every month to make decisions. I want to teach people how to, even mediumship, I want to teach people how to do it themselves because I believe they can do it themselves. If you have a heart connection with someone who has transitioned, you're the very best medium for them. You might not do a mediumship reading for the person across the street, a stranger, but you certainly have the ability to connect with your loved ones. So that's part of my message, is to really empower people in where they stand, that they have the connection with their angels. They have the connection with their loved ones. I'm not special. I've just learned how to channel it. And my gift is to help other people learn how to do that themselves also.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, giving people their power back, not becoming psychic junkies, and actually we all have the ability within us to speak to and get the answers ourselves that we're maybe looking for.
Yes.
And your part in all this is healing as well, and and bringing people together. Yeah, but very well put. So I'm not gonna. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you something else then, to keep this going on this thread. You talk about a number of steps then as well involving the archangels. What are some of these steps?
Well, so when I was writing the book, one of the things that I realized is we as human beings, our heads, like to have a process. We like to know what to do. And, part of my teaching really is you don't have to know the how. However, to satisfy the human mind, I realized that there's steps that we can take to start to heal our hearts. And as I was writing the book, I knew that I had a process that I had walked through myself. And I knew that I had a process that I worked with my clients, but I'd actually never written it out. So I'd never really knew exactly what it was. I just knew this is what I do, and this is the result. So I kind of broke it down. And so the first step, I think the most important one, because you can't start the process without the first step, is awareness. You have to be aware that there's a challenge or a conflict or an internal miscommunication or misalignment. So step number one is awareness, and just being aware that there's something that you want to shift. or expand into. Step number 2 is looking within. And so many people, when we have a problem, we ask everybody else, well, what do you think? What should I do? And instead of going outside of ourselves, my sense or suggestion is let's go inside of ourselves, and really get clear. And then, like step number 5 is responsibility. And I love that one. This is my favorite, step number 5, responsibility. And that's because so many people blame whoever it is or whatever it is in their life for their challenges and their conflicts. And what I discovered in my own life was as long as I was blaming someone else, I was giving them my power. And when I'm giving them my power, I'm putting my healing in their hands. And the people that I'm giving my power to, that I'm blaming, that I'm putting my healing in their hands, don't care. They don't even know that they have my healing in their hands. They're off on another journey. They're not in my life any longer. So what I realized with responsibility is when we take responsibility, we take our power back, and then the healing is in our hands. And we then can allow that healing to happen. But as long as we're blaming somebody else for whatever situations have happened in our lives, we don't have the ability to heal. And so I love responsibility because whether it's positive or it's negative, it's still yours. So taking responsibility is big. And then step 9, which is the greatest, because then you're at the end, is appreciation. And I think that what happens is we start with the challenge. Step number 1, the awareness. We start with the challenge. We walk through the different steps. When we get to 9 and we have appreciation, we appreciate the experience. We appreciate that first step, number 1, the awareness. And we see the value in it. And when we finally see the value in something, ultimately what we get to then is forgiveness. And I love that because then forgiveness itself is finding the value in the experience. And so when we can, like even when we were talking about that experience of being in the hospital, I could look at it and see the greater vision and the bigger picture now. And now it's an appreciation. But in the moment, it wasn't an appreciation. So the step process is powerful, and it's something that anybody can do with any situation. Even in the Invoking book, I do it for job issues and relationships and addiction, and you can walk through that just based on what challenge or struggle you're having.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful because you've done a number of different books on angels. Because there's another book I've got here, Archangel Michael, Maintain Your Energy, a 33-day. Oh God, I can't read my own writing here.
Guidebook.
Guidebook. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, cheers for that. Again, this is different to the book that we're currently talking about, which is Invoking the Archangels, a 9-step process to heal your body, mind, and spirit. But this other book as well, what is a 33-day guidebook then?
So what that is, I actually have one for Archangel Michael and one for Archangel Raphael. And so it's helping people to develop their relationship with the angelic realm, not based on what somebody else said. So my Invoking the Archangels book is my experience, but I don't expect that my experience is going to be everybody's experience. So it's just a foundation. But in the 33-day guidebook, then it's giving you different exercises each and every day to develop your own relationship with the angels, to have them speak to you in their own, in your own unique way, so that you now have your own foundation and experiential around it versus reading a book and taking that as truth. I think that when we have an experience for ourselves, that's what lends to the greatest learning.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. And that's what you're trying to evoke here as well. Like you say, is to have that your own personal experience, which will not be the same as yours.
Yes.
But to start any experience off, would you say you've got to have that you've got to open up yourself to say it's my truth, it's my belief,
or at least I am open. I am open. I think that a lot of times we don't really understand. We try to understand everything. I think we waste a lot of energy trying to understand things because sometimes things are beyond our human understanding of things. But I think if I'm willing to be open, then I can see through a different set of eyes than if they're closed. And in that openness, then spirit can appear in ways that that I can handle at that time, wherever I am in my life. And I feel like a lot of times, people are always trying to compare their experience to somebody else's. So, yes, we need a foundation. That's why I wrote the book. We need a foundation so that we can learn. That's what books teach us. But then beyond that is now you go have your own experience, because your experience is going to be much more profound to you than mine is.
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone's watching this and they're just thinking, well, I wonder if okay, I may have ignored some signs in the past, but I'm ready now. I wanna have an experience with one of these archangels. Can that be through meditation? Is that the first place you would start?
Meditation, intention, like calling them in, saying, it doesn't even have to be a formal prayer. It can be, if that's what your background is, but it can say, hey, angels, allow me to experience you in a way that I know it's you. Or Archangel Michael, surround me and protect me and allow me to feel you. Or Archangel Raphael, help me to heal and release whatever is for my, whatever is not for my highest good. Like, we can just open up to allow that energy in, but we do need to ask. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of questions that I'm asked are, well, how do you ask? Well, you just ask, just like that. It can be any and all of those ways. It doesn't have to be formal, but we have a law of free will. And so we do need to open that energy up and invite them in whatever form feels appropriate to you. And then you will start to see the experiences. I mean, I've worked with thousands of people that have just had these amazing, really fun, cool experiences. Once they just said, okay, angels, show me a sign, I think sometimes we get impatient when we say, show me a sign, I want it now, like this second. But certainly if you're open, then you'll start to see them. I mean, that's been the experience for me and many of my students.
We've used the word angel throughout this interview as well, and you've mentioned a number of angels that have come through. Have you ever questioned them to see, really? I mean, maybe you have, but maybe you haven't. But to see if there's something deeper about these angels that we've attached the word angel to them, yet they are something else.
I think that we as humans attach a lot of names to a lot of things, to organize things in our minds and have words to associate. So, if I were going to just go off of the energetic way I experience them, I would just call them different vibrations. The angelic realm has a higher vibration, and they're not, we think of angels as, the image that we see of Archangel Michael, the big wings, but they aren't male or female. We assign them masculine and feminine names based on our interpretation of masculine and feminine qualities. They don't have bodies, so they're not boys or girls. They're simply an energy, a vibration. And I think that our association with them, angel, is based on the best way that we can understand or connect the knowing that we have in our frame of reference, basically, to what they show up or how they show up in a feeling. And so to me, the highest level of energy that you could feel is unconditional love. That's the vibration of the angelic realm.
Interesting, and I didn't mean anything that they were anything negative there as well. And I know you didn't think that, no. But actually, no. But actually, just what level they're potentially coming from. I suppose that's what we're saying here. That actually, they may be from a very, very high level. And some people, as we've mentioned, you've mentioned Seth before. That was a channeled being. The creative writing, as some people use to say that they're getting it from God. Well, maybe that's just a higher dimensional being as well. I mean, we're using names names here, but I don't want to get too far off it because it's almost getting into the unknown. It doesn't really matter. But I think, as we expand our understanding, it's almost like what we thought was this or that is actually maybe something much greater. That's my point.
I would agree. And I think that we limit a lot of things by using words. But in this human realm, it's the way we express. But I would agree. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating this direction that you've taken as well, with all this great information that you've brought through, and these fantastic books, and there's a lot of healing, there's a lot of teaching, there's some great practical stuff here. Would you say the angels as well are very interested in bringing peace within the present moment?
Absolutely. I definitely think that's part of the purpose is to help us be present moment beings, because really that's the only place that exists is present moment. And I think on some levels we know that, and on other levels we make it about the future or the past. And so the angelic realm, in order to connect with them, you have to be present. Spirit speaks in present moment. Always in present moment. It's never in the future. It's never in the past. Spirit's always speaking in present moment. So they call us into presence.
Yeah, and absolutely, and they've only got unconditional love for us, which you've mentioned before, and it's all about. I think and even when you get a reading from yourself, I think it's probably about giving you the power back, in the sense of rather than being told it's this or that. Sometimes it's like, well, what you've got to go with what feels best for you or what feels right for you, giving you the power back in a sense.
Always, absolutely. I mean, I think that was the thing that in my life changed so much, really, was, when I started connecting with the angelic realm and listening, was that they helped me find my power again. They helped me find that love for myself, and not only find it, but then allow myself to feel it, so that I could make choices and decisions from a place of empowerment instead of a place of victimhood or lack or fear. That's probably the greatest gift that I received from working with the angels, was that energy of unconditional love that automatically empowered me.
Yeah, and that's so important. That is, and from that space, look what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy, wild journey, and there have been parts of it that I've been like, oh my gosh, really? We're going to do this? And then there have been other parts that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And I'm grateful for every one of them. I really am as grateful for the dips as I am for the peaks, because I think that each one of them deserves the attention that it's calling me to.
How have you found people accept your work in general? Has it always been with love, or has it sometimes a bit of a test?
In the beginning, it was a test in a lot of ways, but that's because I was I was testing. I was the one that was concerned about how the people were going to take it. I was the one that had fear about people's response. When I started letting go of that, I really had very, very, very few negative interactions ever in 15 years. I mean, I probably had 3.
Oh, it was you. You were attracting that, right?
I was because
Wow.
I still had that, it was still that teenager in me that said, I just want to be normal, and I want to be liked, and you guys, you don't like me because I'm not the same way you are. And so I had that. So I would put that judgment out. Well, of course, if I'm, I don't know if this person can handle me. I don't know if that religion's going to handle me. And I don't know if this. So I was in that space. So they automatically had to show up in that way. And as soon as I got that, which was probably about 4 years into it, as soon as I got that, it was, I mean, I have had very few experience, very little.
That's incredible. Yeah. Wow.
And it doesn't
Okay.
mean everybody loves it, but I don't have the conflict. They're kind of like, okay, that's Sunny. She's like that. And they don't, but there's not this kind of thing. And I think another piece of it might be too, that I don't feel the need to prove it to anyone. I'm not interested in proving or making anybody believe anything. I just am kind of being who I am and doing what I do. And if they are interested, cool. If they like it, great. If they don't, great. It's okay with me. But when I wasn't that way, that's when I got the push, the resistance.
Oh God! Right. Okay. Yeah. That's so interesting. That is. And I hope that resonates with people. If they're going through the same thing, to remember what you're saying here right now, because I think it's so important. It's almost like we create our reality.
Yeah, it is. And I think that it's hard sometimes to take that responsibility and go, well, oh gosh, everybody's picking on me and nobody likes me. And ultimately, okay, wait, back on up here. And how I saw it, and I'll give you an example, was I'd gotten on a bus one day. I was in a town doing an event, and I jumped on the hotel bus, and there were a lot of we were having a psychic expo in a hotel, and at the same time we were having the psychic expo, there was a born again Christian expo revival in the same hotel. So I'd gotten on the bus, and there were all these women. They had their little badges on, and there was like 40 of them. And then there's me and my assistant, and we got on, and the ladies were like, "Oh, and where are you from?" Because they thought we were a part of them. And I remember myself going, well, I can't tell them, because if I tell them, I'm going to be eaten alive, And then I thought, Sonny, that's not fair. What a judgment that is. That is so not fair. Now, I didn't tell them, but the insight, that moment, changed it for me, because I was in judgment of them. So how could I judge? How could I even experience anything besides judgment if I was judging them to begin with?
Yeah, that's so true. Yep, you can. Yep. So, well, yes, that's a test, isn't it? Just a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Well, you can look back on that and say that was a part of the process as well of what you're doing. But yeah, I completely agree. You cannot judge anyone, and you want to judge someone. I suppose judge yourself first, but then don't even do that. Treat yourself with love.
Absolutely.
Don't be so hard on yourself. That there's no need to do that. Okay, now just remind us of your website as well.
My website is www.sunny, SUNNY, Dawn, DAWN, Johnston with a T, JOHNSTON.com.
Now, on there, you offer a number of services, don't you? And also, are these all available worldwide as well, just via Skype and telephone?
Absolutely. So my sessions and things certainly are available worldwide. Many of my classes are. I do a lot of my classes. I stream them online, so people can join me for all different types of classes. And then I do retreats here in the States, and I've done a few retreats out of the country. So we're looking at a cruise next year out of the country, and some events like that. And I have a lot of products. I have 15 books, but I've got probably over 100 products. So card decks and a jewelry line and a t-shirt line and essential oils and a lot of different things. So they can check that out on my website too.
Okay, well, we're linking that up now, and we've also been putting your books on the screen as well. So lots of your books that you've done, because there's quite a few, as you say, and all these are available from Amazon and all good bookstores as well. Yeah. Can you do signed copies, don't you, as well?
I sure do. Yeah. If they order them through my website, then they'll get a signed copy with a little message inside of it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, yeah, that's where I saw it then, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, what would you say then is could be the most important message you could leave us with as the final question?
The most important message. Wow, it's different every time somebody asks me that. And today, what I feel like is the reminder is, Archangel Michael helps us to maintain our own energy. When we maintain our own energy, we don't absorb the energy of other people. And what I feel like is for this audience is being mindful that when we're responsible for our own energy, then we can be the observers of other people and not get into that judgment. But when instead we're the absorbers of energy and we take the energy on of everybody around us, then that becomes our own stuff, the energy that we've taken on of everyone else's. And that's when we get into the judgment and the criticism. So calling on Michael to help us to maintain our energy so that we're the observer, not the absorber, is one of the best. I think it's one of the most powerful steps we can take in empowering ourselves.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I'll just say, Sunny Dawn Johnston, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a complete pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.